This is Soul Food.
Hey, everybody. Um, Hi, welcome. I know that there are a lot of people who have not seen me on a live stream or do anything for a very long time. But I'm back. I'm excited. And guys, I'm going to be having a really great conversation with Dr. Shirlyn Garrett shortly. But before we get started, I wanted to give you a few updates. First and foremost, I wanted to thank Dr. Al Greer for inviting me to the WOSD family. So starting next week, I will be going and airing on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 9 p.m. with Gems and Jams Radio, Life Gems and Feel Good Jams. You will be hearing from Dr. Garrett a lot on that show, which is why I wanted to bring her in here. And, guys, you know that I like to have a lot of in-depth conversations. You guys know that I like to have a lot uh, of the hard conversations that need to be had. And I haven't done that in a while. Last year we had a lot of racial related programming and that sort of thing. And tonight I'm really excited to bring special programming related to mental health in the Black community. So without further ado, I want to introduce Dr. Shirlyn Garrett. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Kim, for having me on.
And it's good to be live. They don't even know what we have been going through to get this live
Absolutely.
stream
Absolutely.
working.
Absolutely.
I know I know guys, my angle is a little off. You see the corner of my computer. I get it. Y'all, I had to make it do what it do. I had to manufacture this, but at the end of the day, this is a conversation that we both really know needed to be had.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to jump right in. And Dr. Garrett, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself before we get started so they know who they're listening to and why they should listen?
Okay, that's a fair question. Okay, so I'm Shirlyn Garrett. I am a native of Longview, Texas, and really excited about talking about that. But I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and law enforcement, and then I moved over into counseling. It was something that I should have known I was destined to do, but my mother reminded me that I was the person that people always seem to call. All of my friends from the beginning of our friendships till college, and even now, I'm the person that people always call to talk about what was going on with them, issues at home, problems, or whatever concerns. I was that person. And so I caught my counseling bug then. I graduated in 1996 from Sam Houston State University, moved to Chicago, and got a real education in what it was that I really, I think I was meant to do. Started working with young ladies that were primarily on the west side of Chicago, and had been abused and neglected by the families, doing work with a private agency in social services, and doing primarily a caseload of young ladies that were in that area. And then I decided for my own knowledge sake to go back to get a doctorate in counseling. So I returned to the Illinois School of Professional Psychology in 2005 and graduated in 2012 with my doctorate in counseling psychology, and moved on to do different careers, different objectives in my trajectory, which I started in child welfare, and I've been in child welfare in Illinois for 21 years. And I've been a counselor for 25 years. Been licensed in Illinois for 20 years. And I'm also licensed in Texas as a licensed professional counselor. So.
And what I love most about you is that even with all the certifications, and we're going to talk about some of those during the show today, what I'm going into now, but even with all of the certifications, real life makes you such a unique individual. And I'm really excited to introduce you to the people and have these conversations. Quick shout out. Thank you for the person that connected us.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go into this. We were connected, and I was initially going to interview you for my podcast, Our Black Rising. And that podcast is all about you. And you're probably going to be on there too. But by the time we got off the phone,
right,
we knew that I was like, we have a lot of conversations to have. We had
Absolutely.
a deep and intense connection. And you really allowed me to have a safe space where I could be open with you about certain things that I had
Mhm.
gone through and was feeling, and you were able to do the same. And we realized, as often happens, so many things intersect, and so
Absolutely.
many things that we go through and we struggle with that other people don't
Right.
know. We're all kind of struggling with the same thing in the corner, in the dark
Absolutely.
by ourselves, and it's all
Exactly.
of us, and we think it's none of us, you know. um
Absolutely.
so one of the sections of our conversation, because y'all,
Mhm.
that was a hefty conversation, that first
It was.
conversation. But one of the portions of our first conversation, we started talking about mental health, because when I
Mhm.
found out um, your area of expertise, it really touched me, because I was like, oh my gosh, I really want us, the Black community, to remove the stigma of what mental health is. I
Mhm.
need us to remove the stigma of understanding when we need help and that it's okay to get help, and
Absolutely.
recognizing what mental health issues are. Um,
Mhm.
One part of our conversation that rung over and over, you said, you know how we all got that uncle, that one
Mhm.
person that we be like, he crazy, he you that's
Right.
just Uncle so and so.
Right.
That's a mental health issue.
Absolutely.
Um,
And one of the things that we tend to do again is to push that person back out of our lives. We only bring them around at certain functions. Hey, we warn our friends before they come to dinner with the family. Hey, my strange uncle or my strange aunt is going to be out there and they have these issues. Kind of stay away from them, but I want you to be on guard because they may say or do something. And people really don't get the idea of really what mental health really looks like. And
right,
so they would be really surprised as we continue the conversation.
right. Now let's talk about this. Let me ask you in your professional opinion.
Mhm.
I think that as time grows, we all have become familiar with depression. We've
Mhm.
all become familiar with anxiety. Um, in your professional opinion, do you think that the world has an accurate idea and understanding of what depression and anxiety are? Or do we kind of, it feels like we kind of just box them in and
Mhm.
say, depressed means sad. And that's not what depression is.
Absolutely not. No.
So talk to me a little bit about depression and anxiety and how you see that around us.
So, well, a great example is 2020. Most of us, we didn't know what was going to happen when the world shut down. And I remember just driving downtown, and I think I told you this. As things started to shut down, I had never had this feeling when I drove downtown, and I saw absolutely no one on the street, and it was just immensely eerie for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does this? What is what?
Is this
What
the
is
end of the
really going on?
world?
Is this the end of the world? Because that's exactly what I was thinking. And I just watched people's reactions, and not being able to talk, not really being able to function. And we think when we talk about depression, people think that it's I'm hiding myself away. I'm maybe not showering. I'm maybe not doing things that brought me excitement or joy previously. Those are real. Maybe eating, overeating or not eating. Those are all symptoms of depression, but it could be somebody that you don't think is depressed. Those are the people that really are depressed, because we could be wearing a smile, but suffering from depression is what's underneath. So I always talk about there being a mask that we show to the outside world. Now, and I'll be honest, I suffered from depression at some point, and it was due to grief and loss. And I caught myself like, wait a minute, you supposed to know better. You were supposed to talk about this stuff. You wait a minute,
This is
and
what you do.
this is what I do. But the reality of it is that it can happen to anyone. And so I'm going to work, I'm smiling, I'm joking, I'm laughing. I'm the me that I wanted them to see. When I came home, I was a whole different person.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go out, I didn't call, I didn't hang out with my friends. I didn't do any of those things. I slept.
Literally, yeah.
I literally slept. And I went through this for an entire 6 months to a year. I resigned memberships in organizations. really didn't really interact, um, loss of appetite, um, really just how I would normally dress. That wasn't me. I was just
Yeah.
making it
Oh my
making it
God.
work.
It's weird as you're saying this, and I'm hoping that there's someone else listening that feels how I feel as you say this. I took it so personal because I felt that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been that in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when people talk about depression and they just say you're sad, and
No,
that's not what it is. And
no,
it's the symptoms and the way that the domino effect can affect your entire life, your
absolutely.
profession, your this, your that, um, is very real. There are so many
Mm-hmm.
people. Let me ask you this: what do you say to that person who never considered, I may be depressed, but they just heard your story and they said, "Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds like me." What would you say to that person? How do they begin to kind of understand depression
Mm-hmm.
and not be ashamed of it?
Absolutely. So, and for me, like the thing was, the reality of it is, this is what I do. So imagine the same reaction. Wait a minute, I might need to talk to somebody. So I said, because every therapist really does need a therapist,
You
because
do.
we take in everybody else's stuff. But when the realization hit me that I was going through it, I called a trusted friend that I knew would have, understand what depression was about, because she actually worked in the field. And so she was like, yeah, I could see this. You couldn't see yourself slipping into it, and had I said it to you, you wouldn't have heard me. So now,
Exactly.
as you're coming to the realization that something is actually going on with you, let's do you feel like you need therapy? Do you feel like you need to talk to somebody? And I'm like, I guess. And so I did make an appointment, and I did talk to someone. I started by talking to my doctor about what I was feeling. Because now, if you guys go in and you're talking to your doctors, a lot of times they're doing screenings and people don't even know that they're being screened. As they start asking questions when you're in with the nurse, have you thought about harming yourself? Have you thought about, have you been sad? How many days have you been sad? That's a screening tool for depression, right?
Yeah.
Or suicide. And so those are all things that have become normalized, and we don't even know that we're being screened for it. And some
Right.
people are like, I know I never thought about harming myself. Maybe you didn't. But have you been depressed? Have you changed your habits? Have you not done things in your life that maybe has caused problems in your relationship? Maybe you used to go to church often and you don't do that anymore. Just all those kinds of things. You enjoy music, concerts, all that kind of stuff you stop doing.
And it's what people have to understand as well. It's different for everyone. There were
Absolutely.
certain parts of your story that I identified with in regards to, you carry yourself a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you find yourself in the midst of the depression, you're like, I haven't been wearing any makeup. I haven't been
Mm-hmm.
doing my hair. I haven't been, or I haven't been getting my nails done. And it's not,
Right.
we don't equate those things. Um,
Absolutely.
Now, on the other hand, and the other side of depression, because I really want to talk to the people. I want them to know they're not alone and begin to understand so that
Mm-hmm.
they can make a journey toward healing. On the other
Right.
side of depression, one of the most common mental health things that I see, anxiety. Can
Absolutely.
we talk about what that looks like?
Absolutely. So I'm going to even start with younger kids. Um, Biting on the pencil. You can see sometimes kids will have all these bites on their pencils. Anxiety, wringing of shirts. And so you may not notice it until you get ready to do the laundry. That, man, they moving and the stuff is all messed up
It's
on the
pulled
shirt.
on.
It's
Mm-hmm.
all pulled to a certain side. You can see people actually not even sleeping for a long period of time. You could see them like kind of withdrawing again from circles of friends. So it kind of sounds like somewhat of a depression, because it could mirror that a little bit.
Yeah.
They could not eat again. They may not want to again interact, do things that they would normally do. And like I would say, I saw a lot of a rise in anxiety from COVID, and people running from other people, not The mask, they didn't feel it was protecting at one particular point, and so that increased anxiety amongst individuals who maybe hadn't had it before, or it could have been something that was underlying, and it came out in those types of ways, and it started to affect
Because
their
trauma is
the
usually
trauma
what
did.
pulls
Right.
those things out if
Correct.
they are laying dormant within. Um, let me ask you this. In
Mhm.
regards to depression, in regards to anxiety, how prevalent do you think it is in reality versus how many of us actually address it and acknowledge it and work with it?
Okay, so that's a lot to answer in one. So let's unpack a little bit. At least for mental illness for African American people, at least 17% of us are diagnosed with mental illness. 17%. I would venture to guess that probably less than probably 2 to 5% of us are doing anything about it. Because
Right.
one, we don't recognize that it's an issue. Another set of us don't believe that if even if it is an issue, I'm gonna go talk to Jesus about it and that's
I'm gonna
it.
go pray about it and pray
I'm gonna
it
go
off.
pray about it. And I'm so glad that a lot of the ministers are moving towards telling people to talk to professional counselors about what's going on. So my motto that I heard a lot during the process of 2020 was, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. And I thought that was
Yeah,
very that
yeah.
was needed. That was needed, and giving people permission to be able to have a therapy session and to meet with someone else that could meet with them on that level. And kind of how I talk to people about it is, it's wellness. It's just looking at what's going on in your own life, and you have someone that listens just to you, just for you, someone that is not making judgments about you, someone who is there to not solve your problems, because we believe that you already have the answers to your own issues. We're just going to help you to arrive at it.
Right, right,
And
right.
so when you're ready for change, that's when you can enter into a counseling relationship and it continues to move forward.
Now, I want to talk. We talked about depression. We talked about
Hmm.
anxiety. I want
Hmm.
to go back and dig in a little bit when we were talking about the funny example on our phone call with the uncle, right?
Hmm.
I want to talk, and I would love to know as a professional what you see in our community that's undiagnosed often. Is this schizophrenia? Is this bipolar that we see? All is this? What are the other mental illnesses that are rampant that we're not addressing and we're not even mentioning because we just tie everything to depression and anxiety if we get this far to
Absolutely.
have a mental health talk.
Exactly. So one of the things like that we have discussed is that most people don't talk about is schizophrenia. It's something that most people are fearful in talking about, don't know a whole lot about it, don't understand it. So I'm going to give some symptoms that people could be looking for if they feel like someone they know has schizophrenia. And so one of the things is there's an onset usually around the age of 25. So things could be going extremely well. They could have made it through college. They could have done extremely well. And at 25, the onset of things starts to occur. And so, the African American community, like, did they get something put in their drink? What
They
happened?
crazy.
They
They hit
crazy
something and
all of
it
a
wasn't
sudden.
good, right?
Exactly. So they don't understand that at that point, something happens. And so, also, if they have a family member who's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, they are 6 times more likely to have schizophrenia. So, especially a close relative. And so, if we're looking at schizophrenia, we're looking at the symptoms would be hallucinations. So they might be seeing things that are not there. They might be hearing things that aren't there. They might even be smelling things that aren't there. And so those are some of the areas in as far as hallucinations are concerned. So if you see, they'll say, "Did you see that? Did you see that person trying to harm me? Or did you see that? Did you hear what they said to me?"
This
Um,
paranoia.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, in some ways a paranoia about certain things, but definitely hallucinating to the things aren't those things aren't present, and other people may not see them. Okay, so that's one. The other thing, they might have some delusions. So they may think that I had a patient who thought that they were God. And they really believed it. So they were very delusional. They walked around. They looked at him, looked at the therapist, and they thought that they were absolutely God. And so that's how they interacted with people on a daily basis. That's eye opening, right?
Wow.
And was
Right?
very
Because I was like, Jesus, okay.
right. So, but the delusions, he believed that that's who he was, and that he was here to save our souls, and so that's who that's how he presented himself. And so, didn't argue with him, couldn't argue with him because it's a severe mental, disorder, and so that's how he presented. The other thing is that they may have some other negative symptoms that may come up that you're not able to really ascertain at some point, at times. One of the great things to actually to look at also is that they are having some different cognitive issues. So how their thinking is and how it appears. And so they may have some lack of insight in judgment, things that they might not normally do. So say that they moved out of a home, they say they had a house, they moved out of the house, they moved into the park. That would be something about judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. It As I listen to you speak about this, the crazy part is, and I know that everybody listening to this is too, we can think of particular people that we've come across in the path of our lives that fit this. And
Absolutely.
what we as unconsciously do, especially as Black folks, they on drugs.
Absolutely.
They just, and as I sit and I think about, there was a young man that I went to college with, and it's so funny when you said the 25 thing, because it hit me. We really never figured out what happened, because it was
Absolutely.
like he just turned into a different person. And joking, like, all jokes aside, Dr. Garrett, we would go, well, did he hit some bad weed, or
right?
Like, we really, because it was, who is this person?
Right.
It's mind-boggling as you begin to say it, because as you list these symptoms, we can see them around so many people around us. And I think that the most important thing, if you begin to see it, you have to operate in that. And when
Absolutely.
I say operate in that, you have to understand who and what you're working with.
Absolutely. So
yeah.
And I think that that's an important thing, because we automatically assume all the time that it's drug related, or that they had something just happen to them and they had a nervous breakdown. That's my favorite. That's my least favorite.
Breakdown, lost their mind.
Absolutely. And so we know that we say that. That is one of the things that we are primed to say. And the thing is that it could have been the whole time that this was onset. And that person had no idea that it was forthcoming, may not have known, because what we also tend to do in the African American community is not talk about from generation to generation what has occurred.
We keep
and
it, and we're going to talk about that and a few other things, conversations we have too, but we keep secrets.
Exactly. Secret keeping. That's what we do. And so one of the other things with this, if you notice some of this that is going on, the first place to start is with the doctor. I would start with a medical professional and having them to kind of talk, and they're probably going to refer you out, of course, to a psychiatrist to kind of look at and diagnose what's going on. And the psychiatrist, there are medications that can assist and help in treatment for someone who is willing to take them. And so sometimes we again have this, it makes me feel bad. I don't like how it makes me feel. And every medication is not meant for everyone, but they do have a myriad of different medications that might be helpful, but we might have to try them in order for them to work. I don't like that. I like natural stuff. And so I'm going to drop this. We tend to choose what medications we're going to take to medicate ourselves. And I don't have to say it. Dare I say it?
You said it. Yep. I was just going to say, go ahead.
But that's how we're going to medicate ourselves. But that does not help with schizophrenia.
Exactly.
And so
say that's going to make that work. That's going to amplify the symptoms of those disorders. one thing I really want to pull from this, anyone who's listening to this and you're questioning it, I might be depressed, I might. She said something very important. It can start with your general practitioner. Go to your
Mhm.
regular doctor, the same doctor you go to when you got a sinus infection. Go
Mhm.
to your regular doctor and let them create a path for you. Like she said, they will likely give you a referral, but begin the conversation so that you can begin the healing. The other
Absolutely.
thing, as you were talking, especially at the end, I want to hear your professional, um, as we talk about this, right?
Mhm.
This character that we all know. Um, it hit me, Kanye.
Yes.
And even when you said, you can give them the medicine, but if they don't take it, what do you do with it? And I can even recall having heard Kanye say at times he don't take the medicine because he don't like the way it make him feel.
Absolutely.
And talk to me. Can you talk to me and talk to the Kanyes out there that might be listening, that
Right.
are like, I feel you, but I don't feel normal. I don't want to. What? How do we begin the journey with them?
So one of the things that I have to say is that if you have a headache, what do?
Take a
Oftentimes
Tylenol.
you take some Tylenol. You're going to take medication. And we all have some conditions as African American people, high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, what are you going to do? You're going to
Take my
take the
medicine and
medication
not miss it.
and not miss it because we know that it's going to impact our kidneys, especially as African American people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's that simple to be able to feel normal and in their sense of whatever normal is. That medication helps you to be able to deal with whatever your reality is.
Right.
To
Right.
have some sense of normalcy, you might have to take some medication. It will not be the only thing that you would do. I would also ask that you would begin a therapeutic process to
Therapy.
learn more
Exactly.
about it. And then also start doing your research. There is nothing that my doctor, my general practitioner, can tell me that I'm not going to pull out my phone because all of us have a phone.
Hello.
And as he's starting to tell me what my diagnosis is, I'm already ahead of the game because I'm already looking at it and I have questions that I can ask related to what this is, what this does, and why are we going to be prescribing me possible medications? And if so, what kind of medications are we going to be
Yes.
prescribed? And
Yes.
one of the things that I would also suggest is to take a trusted person with you. Because when you're in the thick of something, you can't always think of the questions that need to be
Rationally.
asked. And exactly, especially if you have some of these disorders going on, they haven't been diagnosed, but you know that something's not quite right. Take somebody that you do trust, that can ask questions, that can help you to understand, and that can help advocate for you on your behalf, especially as
Yes.
African American people. And one of the things that we don't do, we don't think that we have the power to advocate for ourselves. We do. You have the power to talk to your doctor. You have the power to make decisions about those kinds of things as well. And so that's a tidbit that I also want to drop off. And as we continue to talk about other conversations, we'll talk about how to do that.
Exactly, exactly. Because just so you guys know, and Dr. Garrett and I already know, this is just the first of many conversations. This is just
Absolutely.
one part. And Dr. Garrett, I am going to say this on air too. I didn't realize your bachelor's was in criminal justice.
Yes,
Because I definitely want to talk about that. I want us to have a conversation at some point about the justice system
absolutely.
in this country, and that's a whole nother girl. That's a
That's
rabbit hole
about yeah, that's about six to seven sessions
in itself, right?
to get in right all by
Now let
itself.
me ask you this, and I wanna be able to give them these things in bite-sized chunks.
Mhm.
We've been on about 30 minutes, so I want to be able to give them these things in bite-sized chunks. But if there's one thing that we as a community could do, every single Black person that's listening to this, right?
Mhm.
Because the purpose of my company, the purpose of what we do is for our people. And it's not
Absolutely.
at the detriment of anybody else, but it's for our people. What
Mhm.
can every single Black person do to address the mental health stigma in our community and begin to move us forward?
I think gain understanding. Knowledge is power. realize that this impacts not only you, but it impacts those around you, our community as a whole. It impacts the justice system, as you were just speaking about. A lot of people that are going to jail have undiagnosed mental health issues.
That's why
When
they're
they're released,
criminals.
that's why they're criminals, because it has not been diagnosed. And of course, they think there people don't even want to even consider that that could be the case, or that could be the cause. I think again, it's such a injustice not to spend some time getting to understand. I'm not telling you to get the complete understanding or knowledge that someone who's a clinician might have, but there are organizations that target just working and having an understanding of mental illness and what it looks like. And one of the best organizations that I can recommend, and they have a lot of information on their website, is NAMI, and that's the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And so they have a number where you can call, a number where you could text, information that is all on the website that helps you to kind of understand in layman's terms what it is that might be going on with you, that might be going on with teenagers. And they have all kinds of resources and programs that would be helpful. And so they're nationwide. And so that would be something, as you're talking about different kinds of diagnoses and things with mental illness, that would be a place that you could all go to. Everybody could go to it. But the thing is that we have to normalize that a lot of people are suffering from mental illness. And if you did not believe it before, 2020 showed us that anyone,
Baby. And look, if they
anyone,
weren't suffering from it before, like we said,
we are now.
this, they are
Right.
now.
We are now. We are
You
now.
know, and even with that being said, the pandemic has of course been so dramatic, but people have to understand the world that we're living in is so volatile. We
Absolutely.
have to make sure that our mental health is okay, because literally just living in the world and being aware of the things that are happening can be
Right.
depressing in itself.
Absolutely. And so,
Dealing with
and
it
that's the
and
part
watching the condo building
absolutely.
down in my
That is a great point, Kim, because I want to talk to people about that. One of the things that I do want to say, and this is another conversation that I think among the others that we have to have,
right.
is people that are consistently watching those things happen on TV. I do not, absolutely do not watch the news
And it's
in long
horrible.
spurts.
I'm guilty of it. As a media professional, I find
Mhm.
myself saying, I have to stay abreast of what's going on.
You
And I do, but there's a point where I have to shut it off.
do. But there's a point in a time when yeah, I'm sorry, we kind of overlapped, but there's a point in the time where you have to turn it off. And it affects your mental health if you consistently see trauma over and over and over again. And so that also lends itself to some types and some forms of depression, and again, re-traumatizing. And you never know what triggers something that you thought that you would address before, that maybe some things that happened when you were younger, you may have thought you addressed it, but something that you might see on TV might trigger it and bring it right back up.
And
So
and
those
and
are concerns.
guys, as she says this, think about how, as forget as a nation, at this point as a world, we are all witnessing traumas over and over and over again. We have
Absolutely.
normalized reliving it to the point where we're going to replay the video 6 times a broadcast. How can that has to affect us all in some way? And then fast forward, and we're looking at Jim Bob is mad, so he shot up the grocery store. It starts to make
Absolutely.
sense.
Yes. And so those are the things that they and when those kinds of things happen, there are copycat crimes that happen within that same week or the next week, because people don't address the mental health concerns. And I can look at and sometimes use these as case studies with students as we're talking about it in class, about look at what has happened and what led up to this. And again, all the time, it's that people did not get the help that they needed early on. When these things occurred, they may have occurred when a child was young, and parents didn't take them to the doctor because, oh, nothing's wrong with my child. Just
Not my
denial.
baby.
Not my baby. And I don't want to have to look at that. I'm just burying my head in the sand. Well, if you continue to have undiagnosed mental illness and things are triggering you left and right, those are the kids that could be turning over the desk when we were in person in class. Those are the ones that are acting out, asking for help in their own language. The language is they might be doing something to harm someone else. And so as they continue to say, and you might hear people say, hurt people, hurt people.
Hurt people. Yeah. 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 And it's so important that people understand, even in listening to you talk about this now, how, and it's painful to say this, but
Mhm.
how normal it is. I would almost dare say that in 2021, we may all have some underlying form of something just by living and being present. Um,
Absolutely.
Even, us being from Chicago, I was driving from a meeting the other day on the expressway and I heard gunshots.
Hmm.
And for 2 days, my anxiety was just through the roof. I live in the suburbs. That don't
Hmm.
happen all the time. Imagine the people who hear that outside their window all day. I just really want us as a people to begin to look at mental health the same way that we look at our other health. Like you compared it to blood pressure, you compared it to those things. If you have
Absolutely.
cancer and the cancer is not treated, the cancer will grow.
And
It'll
that's the way that
spread.
we have to look at it, and that's the way that we have to look at it, and that is a great way to even bring forth. If we don't address it, kind of just like I was saying before, it is going to just continue to exacerbate as things occur over and over again. And so if we have these underlying conditions that we don't know that we have, or that we thought that we addressed, or that might be something that, oh, this happened to me when I was younger, it doesn't affect me anymore, and we see something like that or we hear something like that, it does trigger us and things do occur. And then that could put you into a situation where you do have depression, and
Yeah.
that it comes out, and the anxiety. And so, just like what you described, it could be someone who has post traumatic stress disorder, because we live in Chicago. So we know that as we hear things, oh, I'm not sleeping, I can't eat, I can't go out of the house. It turns into a whole
We're
lot of other
scared to
things.
leave. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm gonna tell you, there's a school there. The kids are so resilient because they live that life, and they know what's going on in the community. So I will say a group of interns were at a school setting, and there was kind of a gang war, and this was a couple of years ago. My interns were scared to death. They called from under the table because there was something going on outside, and the school was on lockdown, right? The
Oh my
kid
God.
said, I don't know why y'all scared. This is just so and so from down the street. And they got into it this weekend, and this is a retaliation. They knew everything that was going on. And so
Wow.
in their minds, it was something that was normal. They knew that it was going to happen. Why be scared? Because they were in their safe place, which actually was the school setting. But the interns were like, oh my God, y'all got us over here. They this was not normal for them, and this was fearful. They were very fearful of what occurred. And so when they came back, they had just exactly what you described. It created anxiety every time they had to go into the building. It created anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. It took them back to that same place. And even
Absolutely.
as you tell that story, y'all, think about the kids who they knew all of this, they seen all of this. Think about the kids who every place is a trigger. The gas
Absolutely.
station is a trigger because this happened over there. The corner store is a trigger because that happened over there. The school is a trigger because this happened here. We have got to first and foremost acknowledge mental
Hmm.
health in our community if we're going to do anything about it, because if not for us, for the kids, if not for us,
Absolutely.
for the kids, so that we don't begin to teach them this level of secrecy, this level of, I'm gonna hide all my stuff under the table, I don't need your, all of this stuff that has been passed down to us. We have to be the people that break this so that we
Absolutely.
can thrive as a people.
And that's the thing. And I'm so glad that you said that, because I know that we're going to have a conversation about intergenerational trauma that has been passed on. And we're going to talk about that and the epigenetics and we're going to talk about that and break it down where everybody is on the same page about how it affects our generations, one generation after the other, because
Yeah.
we do not deal with that trauma. And it started back in slavery. And after we got out, and it's continued to be passed down every generation. Because guess
It,
why?
it,
We
it's
don't
so
address
funny when you said that. As you were speaking, you said it started with slavery. I thought about if we're in a place where we understand that trauma breeds these sorts of things. We are in this country based on a traumatic situation. Our people are living trauma. We're living trauma.
it.
So
Absolutely.
it would mean that it's important for us to address our mental health, if nothing else.
Absolutely. And I think that that's how
Honestly.
we continue to get stronger as a people, by
Yeah.
healing. And so
Yeah.
acknowledging it, getting the information that we need, and recognizing that there is nothing wrong with talking about, gaining an understanding of, and then pursuing some assistance and help with moving us to the next level. It only makes us that much stronger and that much better.
Yes. And I just put on the screen again the resource that you shared, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. If anyone wants to know when it's time to dig in, I need you to go to this website, just
Absolutely.
understand and learn the basics so that this conversation that we've had, we can begin to see the world around us and operate accordingly. Dr. Garrett, I want to
Yes,
thank you so much for this conversation. I can't wait for the next one.
I can't wait either, Kim. I think it's going to be
I
something that's
cannot
going to be
wait.
great.
I am looking forward to this. Guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in. I do want to compel anyone who has watched this in its entirety, share this. Share this. The core of what we need, and I know that we need, and what Dr. Garrett said, the first step is knowledge.
Mhm.
And that's why we're having these conversations on larger platforms so that we can begin to talk about it. So please share this on your Facebook, share this with a friend, send it on YouTube, whatever you need to do. Share this information, use this resource, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and begin to understand and learn, not just for yourself, but for your community. Did you
Absolutely.
have anything you want to say before we go, Dr. Garrett?
Just thank you for opening up the waves of communication so that we can talk about this. And it's so important to not only me, to other clinicians of color, to be able to assist our people in understanding and moving forward, moving forward in healing and the healing process, and just moving us to a whole nother level. So thank you for uh, opening up this channel of communication for us.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing this to be possible. Um, there's more to come, and I hope people start taking this as an example and start having some harder conversations. We got enough
Absolutely.
music. We got all of that. Let's start
Right.
having some conversations and fixing some stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, please share this post. You can always subscribe to my list on soulsaco.com, and then that way you'll be up to date with all of the programming that will be coming. You'll be able to catch any of the lives that you missed, and you'll be able to see what Dr. Garrett and I are going to be talking about in the near future. So I am going to go ahead and we're going to end the stream. We're going to end the programming. Thank you so much to everyone listening. Dr. Garrett, thank you for being here. And I'm going to talk
Thank
to
you.
you soon, lady.
Okay, same here. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.